Every Halloween, I make it a tradition to throw a huge party. Last year was no different, or at least I thought it wouldn't be. But that Halloween, something happened that I can't explain. Even now, months later, I still get chills thinking about it. It was a typical Halloween night. I had invited all my friends, and the house was fully decorated with fake cobwebs, skeletons, and flickering candles. The vibe was perfect, just spooky enough without crossing into terrifying. People were drinking, laughing, dancing. Everything seemed normal, until it wasn't. Around 11 p.m., a friend of mine, Emma, came up to me looking a little shaken. "Did you invite anyone else? Like, someone we don't know?" she asked. I raised an eyebrow and shook my head. "Why?" "There's someone in the hallway. I've never seen them before. They're wearing a weird mask," she said, her voice unsteady. I thought she was just being paranoid, so I brushed it off. "It's Halloween," I said, laughing. "People wear masks." But Emma didn't laugh. She just stared at me. "Yeah, but something's wrong. I got a really bad feeling when I saw them." I shrugged it off, thinking she was overreacting, and went back to hosting. But that's when things started getting strange. Not long after Emma told me about the masked guest, I noticed the atmosphere in the house shift. The music felt off, like it was slower somehow, and the lights flickered more than they should have. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, like really watched, not by friends, but by something else. Then I saw him. The stranger Emma mentioned was standing at the far end of the room, completely still, wearing a mask that looked old, too old. It wasn't one of those cheap store-bought masks. It looked hand-carved, almost ancient. The eyes of the mask were hollow, black, like they were staring straight through me. I walked over, ready to ask who he was, but before I could say anything, he turned and walked out of the room. Just like that. I figured maybe he was someone's guest, but no one seemed to know him. The rest of the night, he kept appearing in the corner of my vision, always in the shadows, never saying a word. Every time I tried to approach him, he would just slip away. I started to feel uneasy, like the party was spiraling into something darker. The energy in the room was thick, heavy, as if the air itself had changed. And the masked man, he wasn't leaving. I thought about asking everyone to leave, but I didn't want to ruin the party over some random weirdo. But then things got worse. Around midnight, the power went out. The house was plunged into darkness, and all I could hear were my friends' nervous laughs and whispers. Someone turned on their phone flashlight, and we all huddled together in the main room, trying to figure out what was going on. That's when I noticed Emma was gone. At first, I thought she must have gone to the bathroom or stepped outside for air, but after a few minutes of calling her name and checking the house, she was nowhere to be found. Panic set in. I knew something was wrong, really wrong. One of my friends suggested we split up and search the house. Stupid, I know, like something out of a bad horror movie, but in the moment, it seemed like the only option. I stayed on the ground floor, checking rooms and corners I'd already checked before. The whole time, I had that same feeling of being watched, of not being alone. Then I saw him again, the masked man. But this time, he wasn't just lurking in the shadows. He was standing at the bottom of the staircase, motionless, staring up at me. My heart was pounding in my chest. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't move. My feet were rooted to the floor. And then he did something I'll never forget. He pointed. He lifted one long, bony finger and pointed up the stairs, slowly, without making a sound. I couldn't explain it, but I knew he was pointing at Emma. Somehow, I just knew. I forced myself to move, my legs heavy like lead, and ran up the stairs. I called Emma's name over and over, my voice echoing in the darkness. I reached the attic door, which was slightly ajar. I never let anyone up there. It was old, full of dusty boxes and forgotten things. But I could feel it. She was in there. I pushed the door open and stepped inside, my phone light cutting through the thick darkness. And there, in the corner of the attic, was Emma. She was standing completely still, staring at the far wall. My flashlight caught something else, something that made my blood run cold. The masked man was standing right behind her, his face inches from the back of her head. But when I looked at him, really looked at him, I realized that wasn't a mask at all. That face, it was his face. I screamed for her to move, to run, but she didn't. She just stood there as if in a trance. The figure reached out, his long fingers wrapping around her shoulders, and then he was gone. Just like that. Both of them were gone, as if they had never been there. I tore through the attic, screaming her name, but it was useless. Emma was gone, vanished without a trace. No one else had seen what I had seen. No one believed me. The party broke up soon after, everyone shaken by the strange events of the night. I never saw Emma again. The police investigated, but they found nothing. No signs of struggle, no evidence. It was like she had simply disappeared into thin air. But I know what I saw. That thing took her. Now, every Halloween, I avoid parties. I don't decorate. I don't celebrate. Because every once in a while, when I'm alone in my house, I catch a glimpse of him, just out of the corner of my eye. The man with the not quite mask, still watching, still waiting.